welcome to Restless Chipotle. Today we are making a pasta dish that is a mashup between Tex-Mex and Italian, two of my favorite foods. It's a fajita pasta. It's got a creamy fajita flavor kind of sauce, tender chicken, delicious pasta, and it's so easy. It's one pot meal, 30 minutes, and that's all it takes. I've been digging into it a little bit because I couldn't help myself, but look at that. It makes a great big pot. This is probably enough for 6 to 8 people. And it's cheesy, creamy goodness right here. So let's go over to the kitchen and get started. All right, the first thing that we need to do is to cut the vegetables. Some people like to cut the bell peppers in long slices the way that they are in regular fajitas, but I like to cut them in a smaller dice. I just think it's easier to get on your fork, it's easier to eat. And honestly, a lot of times, you know, I like to buy those mixed bell peppers that are already diced. So if you want to cut them in long strips, cut them in long strips. And if you want to cut them in a dice, then cut them in a dice, or buy the diced ones, whatever you want to do. Get these out of the way. So I'm just gonna, if you want to leave them, you know, like this, that's fine. Just cut them kind of thin, like that one probably needs to be cut in half. And take this white part out. Sometimes it gets bitter when it's cooked. So I'm gonna cut this up. I'm gonna set those aside back there. Look for any that I missed, because you know I miss a lot of them. I've never been great with knives. Then we're gonna take the red bell pepper and do the same thing. And then we'll just put those back. And those can get all mixed up. That's not gonna hurt it because they're gonna be mixed up in the pan anyway. I like to put jalapeno in there. It gives a little heat. If you don't want to, or you know, you don't like spicy things, then there's no need to do that. If you do put them in there, when you're cleaning them, always wear gloves, unlike me. And I'm gonna be sorry later when my fingers are burning. And always take the seeds out, because there's a lot of heat in those seeds and in the membrane. And if you don't put on gloves to do this, then for goodness sakes, don't itch your eye or go to the bathroom. That can be bad. And I always cut the jalapenos up a little bit smaller than the other peppers, because you know, I just don't think anybody wants to get a big bite of jalapeno, or at least not most people. Right, then we're just going to push those back. And finally, the onion. I have heard that if you don't cut the root end of the onion, it won't make you cry. I have never found that to be true, but I still keep trying. All right, once we've got the vegetables chopped, we're going to do the chicken. I really hate the color of these mats on camera, but they work really well for me to know the difference between the vegetable cutting board and the chicken cutting board and the beef cutting board and all of the different cutting boards. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna thinly slice that chicken like we were actually making fajitas. Now, here's the thing. When it's kind of big like that, I still think it's hard to get a good bite. So I'm gonna go back and cut those again so that it's not so big. You can leave them in strips if you want to, but I like to go back and just cut it halfway through so that they're smaller, sizes. Once it cooks up, it's more bite size, I guess. You can use either boneless chicken breast or boneless chicken thighs with this. It doesn't really matter. The chicken thighs do tend to be juicier, but my family doesn't eat dark meat, so that's why we don't do that. Yes, I have a bunch of fussy eaters in my family. Okay, I'm gonna heat this oil up in our pan. Get it good and hot. And while that's heating up, I'm just going to sprinkle half of the fajita seasoning on the chicken. Once that's good and hot, I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken with the fajita seasoning on it. It's good to let it sit for a few minutes, and if you can just let it sit for even 10 minutes, that's good. We're just going to cook the chicken until it's browned and seared on all sides. And don't be afraid to add a little bit more oil if you need it. I think I didn't have quite enough oil in this pan. Once the chicken looks like it's got pretty much all got a little crust on it, that's when we put in the vegetables. We want that to cook down a little bit so that we've got room to add the pasta and the other ingredients that we're going to add. It smells really good. And I know that it's not all cooked yet, but that's fine because this is a one-pot meal. We're putting the pasta in, we're going to put some chicken stock in, and then we're going to cover it and simmer it for about 30 minutes. So don't worry that the chicken's not all the way cooked or the vegetables aren't all the way cooked. They will be. We're going to bring that up to a boil before we add the pasta. But in the meantime, I'm going to add the rest of the fajita seasoning. Stir that in. And we'll just put the cover on that and let it come to a boil. Once that comes to a boil, we're going to take the cover off. Give it a little stir. And add in our pasta. And you want to stir that pasta right in. We just want to get the pasta stirred in so it's within the liquid. And then we're going to put the cover back on and let it simmer for 30 minutes. I'll see y'all in about 30 minutes. Okay, y'all, it's been just a little under 30 minutes, but when I look inside, I can see that I'm not seeing very much liquid. It looks like it's been absorbed. So we're going to open it up. Wow, doesn't that look delicious? But we're not done yet. Now we're just going to add some cream. And what that's going to do is it's going to mix in with all of the other things, and it's going to be so creamy and delicious. Sometimes I use half a cup and sometimes I use a whole cup. It just kind of depends. Plan on using a whole cup, but use just half a cup if you don't need the whole cup. And what I'm doing is stirring it in and just making sure that everything gets mixed up. We don't want it to be soupy or anything, just a nice creamy light sauce. It looks like I'm going to use a whole cup this time. And here's the best part, and that is tasting for seasoning. The pasta is cooked and tender. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. The pasta is cooked and tender. The sauce is creamy and delicious. And now it really only needs one more thing. Well, a couple of more things, but one main more thing. The cheese. So we're going to put just a sprinkle of cheese. And by sprinkle of cheese, I mean a lot. Once we get the cheese on there, we're just going to put the cover back on and just let it melt. Well, you'd set the table or chop up your garnishes if you're going to garnish with some lime or some green onion, and just leave that sit there so that that cheese can get all nice and melty. While we wait for that cheese to melt, I'm going to slice these green onions because I'm going to use them for garnish. See if I can keep my fingers out of the way. And then I'm just going to slice this lime. I'm going to use 1/2 to just squeeze over the top of it. I'm going to use the other half as a garnish. So I'm just going to cut that in half. All right, let's see how our cheese is coming along. It sure does smell good. Oh, look at that. That cheese just melted down. Oh, looks so good, doesn't it? Now, I'm just gonna squeeze the lime just over the top. Add my green onions. Add my slices of lime. You know, I almost want to add a little scoop of sour cream in the middle instead of just serving it on the table. Maybe I'll do that. Hang on just a second. I think that's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to put my little scoop of sour cream in the center and sprinkle with a little smoked paprika. Just gives it a little pretty color. Better than just kind of plain white sitting there, I think anyway. All right, and that's it. Doesn't that look good? I guarantee you it tastes good. Let's go to the kitchen and talk about it. Here it is, y'all. I've got my plate of our fajita chicken pasta, and it smells so good. It's creamy, comfort food with that little burst of heat from a little bit of jalapeno and that fajita seasoning. Chicken is tender, and it's all done in one pot in 30 minutes. I mean, it just doesn't get easier than that, right? This is for any time you need something quick and easy, back to school or a busy weeknight, soccer nights. Anytime that you need something that doesn't have a lot of prep, is quick and easy, and is so delicious that your family is definitely not going to complain about having it twice in 1 week. This is what you want, all right? Thanks for watching. I hope you'll come back next week. I hope you'll subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later.